You don't notice the cap when it works. You only notice it when your cigar starts unraveling before you even reach the first third. Shoulder begins to lift, the wrapper separates, and suddenly the experience feels compromised. In that moment, most people assume one of two things. I cut it wrong, or this brand just isn't good. But here's what almost no one considers. In many cases, the warning signs were visible before you ever made the cut. Today we're going to slow down. We'll cover why the cap is structurally vulnerable, how to inspect it before you buy, which cigars are more prone to failure, what cutting actually does mechanically, and what actually works and doesn't when repairing it. And near the end, I'll explain why one very common repair trick sounds logical, but introduces materials you were never meant to ignite. Let's start with the mechanics. The cap isn't decorative. It is the termination point of tension. Think about how a cigar is built. The filler pushes outward, the binder compresses inward, and the wrapper is stretched around everything under tension. That tension runs the entire length of the cigar. At the foot, it continues uninterrupted. At the head, it stops, and the cap seals it. That means the cap absorbs outward filler pressure, binder compression, stored wrapper stretch, all at that one small circular point. It's not weak, it's overloaded. If tension during rolling was even slightly uneven, that stress accumulates at the head. When you cut the cigar, you're not creating damage. You're removing the final restraint. If imbalance exists underneath, the cut reveals it. That distinction matters. And in a minute, I'll show you how to spot imbalance before you ever pay for the cigar. Imagine you're standing in front of a humidor. Before you look at the band, turn the cigar toward the light. Start at the head. Rotate and observe. Slowly rotate it while looking for slight edge lift, micro separation along the seam, uneven adhesive lines. You're not looking for perfection, you're looking for a reduced margin for error. Compare texture. Gently press the shoulder. Now press the mid-body. Does the head feel drier? The head dries first because of its exposed end-grain tobacco. Moisture leaves that area faster. Dry fibers fracture more easily under a blade. That's just physics. Evaluate overlap. Look how far the cap overlaps onto the shoulder. Minimal overlap equals less redundancy. Triple caps provide redundancy, but here's the nuance. More layers will not fix poor tension underneath. A perfect single cap is stronger than a sloppy triple. Layer count is insurance. Tension control is craftsmanship. Wrapper grain near the head. Look at the wrapper leaf near the shoulder. Does it look stretched thin? Slightly translucent? That can indicate stored tension. And stored tension releases somewhere. Usually at the cap. Once you start seeing these things, your buying decisions change. And later, we'll talk about how humidity makes this worse, even in well-rolled cigars. Caps don't fail from rolling alone. They fail from environmental stress. Rapid humidity swings are worse than slightly low stable humidity. Tobacco expands and contracts with moisture. When that expansion happens unevenly, fibers weaken. The cap is thinner and more exposed. It reacts first. Overhumidification can soften adhesive. Underhumidification makes fibers brittle. But instability is the real enemy. Stability preserves fiber strength. And here's where things get interesting. Even a well-constructed cap can fail if it experiences enough expansion and contraction cycles. Which brings us to cutting, because cutting interacts with all of this tension. A sharp blade slices fibers cleanly. A dull blade tears them. Torn fibers create fracture points. Punch cuts compress downward before removing material. That compression can slightly separate weak adhesion points. V cuts remove a wedge, changing how tension distributes around the opening. And the most common mistake? Cutting into the shoulder. When you remove shoulder material, you reduce cap overlap. Less overlap equals less structural tolerance. You don't need a massive opening. You need a precise one. Minimal removal, clean slice, preserve structure. Now let's talk about what to do when it still lifts, because this is where most bad advice appears. When the shoulder lifts, instincts take over. The most common instinct is to lick the cap and press it down. But by the time you're smoking, the head is already warm and saturated from condensation. Saliva doesn't create structural adhesion. It creates temporary surface tension. Under heat, that temporary hold usually fails. If you're going to repair a cap, use something that bonds fibers. Two practical options are pectin or honey. Pectin is plant-based and used in cigar rolling. Apply a very thin layer with a toothpick. Press gently for 20 to 30 seconds, and this is critical. Let it dry. If you resume smoking immediately, heat and airflow prevent bonding. Less is more. Over-application stiffens leaves and can alter burn. Honey bonds because of sugar viscosity, but it introduces risks. It can alter flavor. It can create a hard combustion spot. If used, dilute slightly. Apply minimally. Allow it to dry. Repair requires time. Rushing it is why many mid-smoke fixes fail. There's another repair suggestion that sounds logical. Chapstick. And the reasoning goes, it goes on your lips, the cigar goes on your lips, it must be fine. But chapstick isn't designed to be ignited. Most lip balms contain petroleum, mineral oils, waxes, and flavoring agents. Safe for skin, not designed for sustained heat and airflow. Oil-based products don't bond fibers. They coat them. Under heat, they soften. They alter burn. They can introduce off flavors. And they introduce materials never intended for combustion. There's a difference between topical safety and combustion stability. If it doesn't dry and bond plant fibers, it's not a repair. It's a cosmetic layer. Here's the bigger takeaway. Cap integrity reflects rolling consistency. When caps consistently lift in a line, that tells you something about tension control. When they constantly hold, that tells you something too. The cap is small, but it's a window into craftsmanship. And once you understand it, unraveling stops feeling emotional. It becomes evaluative. The cap is the final stress point in the cigar. When it works, you never think about it. When it fails, it feels dramatic. But now you know how to inspect it, how to cut it properly, how to repair it correctly, and what advice to ignore. What's the worst cap failure you've ever experienced? And looking back, were the warning signs there? Let me know below.